Hi there, it's Teacher Mike here from Phuket PALS. Welcome back to another screencast. We've had a number of requests from people on YouTube on comments from people saying, can you have a look at the RLA fiction section, the reading multiple choice? So I thought I would have a look today at a number of questions from that. Have a look at one of the readings so you can kind of see the level of difficulty that is in the test, and then look at some of the questions themselves, look at the problem words and questions and the answers, how I would get the answers. And yeah, hopefully it helps you out at home. So let's get stuck straight in here to the reading itself. Okay, you can see here it's an excerpt adapted from the story, The Finished Story, by a lady called Lucy Maud Montgomery. Now, before we read it, let's have a look at the questions and see what we have to do. So question 1, what can be inferred about the narrator? What can be inferred about the narrator? Okay, so 2 words here that we need to understand before we answer this question. The first word is narrator. And as you should know, if you're doing GED, the narrator is the teller of the story, the person who tells the story. And the second word is infer. What can be inferred about the narrator? So if we infer something, we make a guess about something based on available evidence. So for example, let's say I walk into the classroom and my students are sitting in front of me. I write something on the whiteboard and turn around, and the students are quietly looking at me, waiting for me to continue. I don't say anything to them, but my stomach rumbles. Now, the students can infer that I'm hungry, because the piece of evidence that they've been presented with is the rumble of my stomach. And they then can infer, they can guess based on that evidence that I am hungry. I don't tell them openly or explicitly that I'm hungry, but they know based on the evidence of my stomach rumbling that that is the case. So that's what it means to infer, or that's what it means to make an inference. That's another way you might see it in the GED RLA test, make an inference. Okay, so what can be inferred about the narrator? Obviously, we can't answer that question right now. So we need to read through and then answer the questions. And what you really need to do to be successful in this test is to be able to read very fast and very close, which is not an easy thing to do. And you have to practice some more. I advise students to do that in 2 ways. The first way is you need to be reading fictional novels for fun. Okay, now when I say for fun, you need to be reading for at least 45 minutes a day of a novel that you enjoy. Okay, don't be picking up like Charles Dickens' Bleak House, or I don't know, Dostoevsky's The Gambler, or don't be picking up some dense novel that you don't understand 3 or 4 words every line. That gets you nowhere. You'll never be able to comprehend the story if that's the case. Okay, pick up something a little bit easier. You know, some of the things that books, something by Hemingway is good for the GED level. So like Old Man and the Sea, or A Farewell to Arms, or A Death in the Afternoon. Something by Hemingway is good. Or even Steinbeck of Mice and Men. Most people have read that in school anyway. Or something by Orwell, 1984, Animal Farm, Burmese Days, Coming Up for Air, The Clergyman's Daughter. Anything by Orwell is very, very good as well. And read that for 45 minutes a day. And it will, once you do that, it'll help you pick up your reading speed. It'll also help you improve your punctuation. It'll help you improve your writing. It'll help you improve your spelling. It'll help you improve your grammar. It'll help you improve your lexical resource, your vocabulary choice. The list goes on and on. I could go on all day about the benefits of reading, but I won't bore you to death in this video. So get reading novels, and advise some of the ones I recommended there are good for the GED RLA level. Also, you need to be reading intensively. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean kind of more like exam style questions. So shorter passages and then questions at the end. And students often say, where do I get this type of resource? Well, I think one of the best free resources on the net is commonlit.org. commonlit.org, commonlit.org. Go in there. You don't have to log in, or you don't have to register. You can go straight to the articles. They've got really cool things called text sets. Go in there, pick a text set that you find interesting. It could be about the American Civil War. It could be about slavery. It could be about racism or what and there's just a range of articles in there that you can read. Click on the PDF. Each one of them is PDFable. Okay, it is PDFable, which is a unusual adjective, but I've made it up for the purposes of this video. Each one is PDFable, and click on the PDF, read through and answer the questions, and that's your intensive reading. So shorter passages and questions to follow. Anyway, on with the screencast here. Let's dig into the reading itself. As you can see, it's quite long, so you have to go quickly. Let's do it. Okay, The Finished Story by Lucy Maud Montgomery. She always sat in a corner of the west veranda at the hotel, knitting something white and fluffy, or pink and fluffy, or pale blue and fluffy, always fluffy at least, and always dainty. Shawls and scarves and hoods, the things were, I believe. When she finished one, she gave it to some girl and began another. Okay, so when you read the start of a fictional piece, you have to ask yourself about character and setting. Okay, so setting, we know, is in the corner of the west veranda at the hotel. So we have a lady sitting on a veranda, a balcony, or a porch of a hotel, and she's knitting out there. Okay, so this is one of our characters. We don't know anything more about her yet, but we know where she is. She was old, with that beautiful, serene old age, which is as beautiful in its way as youth. Her girlhood and womanhood must have been very lovely to have ripened into such a beauty of 60 years. So there's a little bit more descriptive detail about our protagonist, our main character. She is an old lady sitting on the balcony or the veranda of a hotel, knitting, and she's pretty good looking for her age. 3. For the first 2 days after the arrival at the hotel, she sat in her corner alone. There was always a circle of young people around her. Old folks and middle-aged people would have liked to join in, but Miss Sylvia, while she was gracious to all, let it be distinctly understood that her sympathies were with youth. Okay, so this old lady, the good-looking 60-year-old woman, she is kind of a bit obsessed with kids. Kids surround her. She must have a good way, a good personality, and a way of getting on with kids. And she doesn't mix a lot with people her own age. 4. Miss Sylvia liked us all, but I was her favourite. Okay, so here we have the narrator. Miss Sylvia liked us all, but I was her favourite. She told us so frankly and let it be understood that when I was talking to her and her shawl was allowed to slip under one arm, it was a sign that we were not to be interrupted. We were sitting together on the veranda at sunset. Most of the hotel people had gone for a harbour sail. I was reading one of my stories to Miss Sylvia. In my own excuse, I must alleged that she tempted me to do it. Miss Sylvia had discovered that I was a magazine scribbler. Okay, so here's an important detail about the narrator of the story. I was a magazine scribbler. So we can guess that means a writer. Okay, and we can also infer from that the narrator doesn't take their writing very seriously, because he refers to himself as a magazine scribbler. So scribbler is someone who scribbles stuff, writes quite without care and attention. So therefore, if the narrator refers to himself like that, we know that he doesn't take his writing very seriously. And moreover, that I'd shut myself up in my room that very morning and perpetrated or written a short story. Nothing would do but that I read it to her. It was a rather sad little story. The hero loved the heroine, and she loved him. There was no reason why he should not love her, but there was a reason why he could not marry her. When he found that he loved her, he knew he must go away. But might he not at least tell her his love? Might he not at least find out for his consolation if she loved for him? There was a struggle. He won and went away without a word, believing it to be the more manly course. So here we find out in paragraph 7 the details of the narrator's short story, okay, which he refers to as a sad little story at the beginning of the paragraph. And it's your classic kind of love story where man loves woman. Man doesn't really mention, he keeps his feelings hidden. And before he can reveal those feelings to the woman, he disappears and goes on his merry way. She's obviously going to be left heartbroken and all of that, the usual. Paragraph 8. When I turned the last page of the manuscript and looked up, Miss Sylvia's soft brown eyes were full of tears. She lifted her hands, clasped them together, and said in an agitated voice, "Oh, no, no, don't let him go away without telling her. Just telling her, don't let him do it." Okay, so we can see from the dialogue in paragraph 9 that Miss Sylvia, the old lady, has been moved or affected emotionally by the seemingly innocuous story that the little boy has told her. She's kind of, it's affected her in some way, and yeah, that could be important later. 10. But you see, Miss Sylvia, I explained, flattered beyond measure that my characters had seemed so real to her. That would spoil the story. I would have no reason for existence then. Its motif is simply his mastery over self. He believes it to be the nobler course. No, no, it wasn't. If he loved her, he should have told her. Think of her shame and humiliation. She loved him, and he went without a word, and she could never know he cared for her. Oh, you must change it. You must indeed. I cannot bear to think of her suffering what I have suffered. So here's an important part in paragraph 11. We've got further character development. We have the lady saying that I cannot bear to think of her suffering what I have suffered. So the old lady, Miss Sylvia, she relates on a deep emotional level with what has happened to the female character in the boy's short story. And as a result, she wants the narrator, the boy, to change the ending so that that both of them fall in love, we can presume. It's a bit weird, this 60-year-old woman. She obviously has had an experience like this in her life that she's relating the story to. 12. Miss Sylvia broke down and sobbed. To appease her, I promised I would remodel the story, although I knew that the doing so would leave it absolutely pointless. Oh, I'm so glad, said Miss Sylvia, her eyes shining through her tears. You see, I know it would make her happier. I know it. I'm going to tell you my poor little story to convince you, but you must not tell it to any of the others. Okay, so paragraph 13 again, and 12. It's important. The old lady is actually crying now. She's sobbing, and she is now offered to tell the young boy her story, her sob story that relates in some way to his story. So, yeah, I feel a bit sorry for this old lady now. She seems quite lonely, and it seems like she's kind of stuck in the past, and the ghosts of the past, these memories of a failed romance are haunting her even to her 60th year. Paragraph 14, last one, long one. This will be where she tells her story to the narrator. I know I can trust you, but it's such a poor little story. You mustn't laugh at it. It's all the romance I had years ago, 40 years ago, when I was a young girl of 20. I learned to care very much for somebody. I met him at a summer resort like this. I was there with my aunt, and he was there with his mother, who was delicate. We saw a great deal of each other for a little while. He was like no other man I've ever met. You remind me of him somehow. That is partly why I like you so much. I noticed the resemblance the first time I saw you. He was not strong. He coughed a good deal. Then one day he went away. Suddenly, I'd thought he cared for me, but then he never said so, just went away. Oh, the shame of it. After a time, I heard that he had been ordered to California for his health, and he died out there the next spring. My heart broke then. I never cared for anybody else again. I couldn't. I have always loved him, but it would have been so much easier to bear if I'd only known that he loved me. Oh, it would have made all the difference in the world. And the sting of it has been there all these years. I can't even permit myself the joy of dwelling on his memory because of the thought that perhaps he did not care. Oh my goodness. Okay, so pulling on the emotional heartstrings there. The old lady has made a parallel connection between this young boy's fictional piece of writing, fictional short story, and a real life experience she had 40 years before. And to kind of compound that, we have the young boy looks like the man she loved in the past. And also the setting is the same. It was in a resort, as she calls it, a hotel. So the woman is very much imagining the past here and getting very, very sad indeed. And that's about it. Okay, so let's look at the questions. What can be inferred about the narrator? Okay, remember what inferred means. It means what can be guessed based on the available evidence. A, does the narrator have little imagination? Well, we know he's a writer, and he's a writer of short fiction, short stories. So obviously he has a very active and vivid imagination. So it cannot be A. B, he is worried about Miss Sylvia. Okay, well, possibly. We'll come back to that. C, he studies people very carefully. Well, definitely. He's a writer of fiction, and writers of fiction, I don't know if you've ever met any of them, but they're constantly doing character studies. So they're always observing people around them, how they act, how they speak, and studying that in great detail. So it's probably C here. D, he already knew Miss Sylvia's story. Well, again, we can't infer that. There's no evidence to suggest the young boy already knew this story, so it can't be D. So we're down to B and C. Let's look at B again. He is worried about Miss Sylvia. Well, he could be, but there's no evidence in the text to suggest that. And that's what infer means. It means you're making an educated guess based on a piece of evidence in the text. And there's no evidence in that text to say that he could have been worried about her. So it can't be B. C, he studies people very carefully. Yes, it has to be. He's a writer of fiction, therefore he must study people in great detail. So it is C for number 1. 2, which quotation from the passage supports the theme of the passage? Okay, so you need to understand here what the theme is. The theme is like an overall idea of what this story is about. Themes are often, things like, they're often kind of lofty ideas. It could be the theme could be about becoming a man, leaving childhood and becoming a man. The theme could be about greed. It could be about ethics, the ethics of something. It could be about love, a broken heart. Okay, so things like this. Themes are kind of like something that kind of hangs over the story and connects everything together. Everything in the story is kind of connected to that idea. Okay, so let's see which quotation from the passage supports the theme of the passage. A, for the first 2 days after the arrival at the hotel, she sat in her corner alone. Okay. B, Miss Sylvia liked us all, but I was her favourite. C, in my own excuse, I must allege that she tempted me to do it. Oh, no, don't let him go away without telling her, just telling her. Okay, so let's look at the first one again. This is connected to the theme of the passage. For the first 2 days after the arrival at the hotel, she sat in her corner alone. That's a bit too specific. It doesn't really connect to any theme at all. The theme is about lost love. Okay, about love slipping through the old lady's fingers at a young age. So A is not connected to that. B, Miss Sylvia liked us all. I was her favourite, not connected. C, in my own excuse, I must allege that she tempted me to do it. That's nothing to do with lost love. D, oh, no, don't let him go away without telling her, just telling her. That's connected directly to the theme. The theme of lost love and broken hearts and all that stuff. D connects to that. So the answer is D there, guys, okay? C. 3. Question 3. What effect does the narrator's story have on Miss Sylvia? What effect does the narrator's story have on Miss Sylvia? A, it upsets her. B, it comforts her. C, it irritates her. D, it angers her. Well, it can't be D. She doesn't get angry. C, irritates her. Well, it does more than that, doesn't it? Because she cries, she sobs, as the text tells us. B, it comforts her. Definitely not B. It has to be A. The narrator's story upsets her, okay? She sobs, she cries, she breaks down, and then she actually is driven to tell her own. She has like an outpouring of emotion when she tells the young boy her own story. So definitely it's A. It upsets her. Okay, moving on. Okay, number 4. Here you can see what's called a drag and drop question. So on the GED test itself, you would actually click on the circles below and then drag them into the circles above. So you can see the character, Miss Sylvia, is in the middle here. And what you have to do is drag the adjectives that are connected or directly connected to Miss Sylvia's personality. Okay, which of them describe her character? So hostile. Okay, so hostile means unfriendly, or if you're hostile to someone, you're unfriendly towards them, unapproachable, angry. So Miss Sylvia, that doesn't really describe her character. She seems quite nice. After all the children crowd around her. So she's definitely not hostile. Caring, for sure. All the kids love her. Friendly, for sure. All the kids love her. Envious, jealous. There's no jealousy in this story at all. So it can't be that. So it must be sensitive. Okay, so you would drag up caring, friendly, and sensitive there. They're the three words that describe Miss Sylvia's character or personality. Moving on. 5. Why is it so important? Why is it so important to Miss Sylvia to have the ending of the story changed? Why is it so important to have the ending of the story changed? A, it's so close to her own experience. B, she thinks it would improve the story. C, she feels the ending is overly complicated. D, she wants the narrator to make the story shorter. So D, she wants the narrator to make the story shorter. Definitely not. Definitely, it's not about length. It's about her emotional reaction to this failed love story. Okay, so it's nothing about length. It's not D. C, she feels the ending is overly complicated. Definitely not. It's not connected to the complexity of his story. It's just connected to the theme of his story. B, she thinks it would improve the story. Well, perhaps, but that's not really the reason, is it? It's more about her connection to the story in real life, the parallel connection that she has. So it must be A here, I think. It is so close to her own experience. Yes, she wants the narrator to change the ending of the story because it reminds her. It's like a mirror image of what she experienced when she was a kid or a youth, a teenager, whatever it was. So it has to be A there. Okay. All right. So that'll do. We'll just do 5 questions. I hope that kind of shed some light for you at home on the standards of RLA fiction questions and passages themselves. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the questions section below. And that's all from me, Teacher Mike. Take it easy and have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.